Welcome to episode 6 of the Normal People Gaming Podcast. My name is Duane.
And my name is Michael.
And we are back with a brand new episode. Michael, I'm very excited for this week's episode. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, including you playing a lot of Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And me playing a very a classic, I think, Alan Wake 1, the original Alan Wake. So let's get right into it.
Absolutely. Well, first I want to say to your gaming experience, Alan Wake, the first one, is one of my favorite games of all time. So it's very exciting for me that you're. I love that you're playing it. It's one of those games that you would tell a friend when you finish, give me a call.
Mm-hmm.
When those credits roll, you give me a call because
I'm excited.
It's a fun one to talk about.
There have been quite a few twists already, which you would expect in a game like that, where it is very story-centric. The game is about the story.
Yeah.
And I was telling you this before the podcast. I was saying it's kind of surprised me that there wasn't as much gameplay. There's plenty of gameplay. There's exploring.
Right.
There is action when you're fighting the stuff, and then there's discovery, looking for the pages of the manuscript, etc. But the primary, it almost feels like you're reading a book. Like you sat down on a cold winter's day with your hot cup of coffee and you're diving into a really good book. It's that much fun.
It really is very story heavy. I know what you mean about the gameplay because it's sort of like it's a shooter in a way, like, but it's very basic. There's like 2 enemy types. There's not a lot going on there, but yeah, just one of my favorites. And I actually wanted to ask you this. So you have written before.
Mm-hmm.
You have written your own screenplays.
Right.
Being that you have sort of been in that position as a writer, do you feel like a stronger connection to Alan Wake in that way?
Do. I absolutely do. And I have wanted to start writing again. That's the crazy thing about playing this game is like, ooh, I need to get back in front of the typewriter. It feels like there's a lot of classic writers tropes in Alan Wake. You have the whole Stephen King misery kind of parallelisms, if you will.
Yeah.
Driving down the country road, you have an accident, without getting into too many spoilers. But I love the fact that it feels like the creators of Alan Wake went out and read or watched a bunch of mysteries or thrillers that had to do with writers specifically.
Yeah.
And it works really well.
I love how the collectible is a thermos of coffee because I really connect to that.
I had no idea. I was running around collecting these thermoses, and I'm like, why is this a thing? And by the way, do you view these somewhere? I haven't even looked in the sub menu. I just collect them and go about my business. I've never.
No, and that's what's funny is it's really like this reminds me of the old days of video games, like from a while back, where there would just be a collectible that you look for, and you just, you got it, and if you get like 100 of them, you get an achievement unlocked or something like that, where like that's literally the only reason to collect it is it's a collectible. And that's definitely, it's funny to then play Alan Wake 2, which, I won't talk about too much because I don't want to spoil.
Is that the American Nightmare? Is that 2? Or is...
No. So American Nightmare is actually, it was a small DLC, not even DLC, it was a small, like, additional thing to Alan Wake.
Oh, okay.
American Nightmare was fine. I remember just feeling like it was a step down in terms of like it. This was during the Xbox Arcade era. So Xbox Arcade, for anyone that doesn't remember, Xbox had like less expensive games it was fewer achievements. Now this was back when games were always on a disc, like always physical copies. for the larger games. And Xbox Arcade was like this new thing where these are games that you just download. You
Mm-hmm.
can't buy them in a store. And so
An
they got
exclusive.
rid of that.
Right.
It was exclusive, yeah. It's just an interesting time where it was like snack games in a way.
Interesting.
It was like,
Almost
yeah,
kind of
you
like
buy
a
your big games from the store. Yeah.
almost like a predecessor to game buying as we know it today. Like this was testing the
Yep.
waters to see if people would get a DLC. And
It really was.
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know about that.
I feel like personally, I barely remember American Nightmare. I feel like it's one that you can kind of skip if you want to just play Alan Wake and go straight to Alan Wake 2.
Mm,
I
hmm.
think you could totally skip it, but it's an additional Alan Wake story, I
Yeah,
guess. It's difficult to explain until you've beaten the first one.
right. I wanted to talk about how it reminded me so much of Max Payne. Max Payne kind of had this surreal portion of the game. You'd be playing and then you would have a flashback, or I think sometimes there was drugs involved, and you would be
Yeah.
in a surreal universe.
Yep.
I definitely feel those kind of, I guess, nods to Max Payne, because Max Payne came out before this game, even though like I've I've known about this game for many years, and I didn't really think it was all that old, but when I started it up, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a pretty early game. Like it's starting to show its age a little bit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it wasn't a problem in terms of enjoyment, but it was just like the game looks amazing and the effects are really cool, but I'm excited to play Alan Wake 2 knowing
Yeah.
that it's more of a newer generation game.
Yeah, newer and absolutely like cutting edge in its effects and how it looks
Hmm.
and how it plays. Like very, very, very cool. I was also going to say regarding like the connection to being a writer. So
Hmm.
the reason I was bringing that up was because as you know, if anyone doesn't know, I'm also a writer, and I love media. Like you talked about being inspired. I love any media that makes me want to go write.
Yeah.
And so there are certain bands that I'll listen to, certain music, there's certain movies. A lot of movies will make me want to go write, but very specific ones will like really trigger that. But then I will say, I'm a huge gamer. I friggin' play games all the time. But I will say that gaming, in a way, sort of gets in the way of me writing, because video games provide an endorphin like boost, like they make you feel like you are accomplishing things and achieving things. So you leveled up, you got this, you unlocked this. It's
Yeah.
very fun and I love it, but it it's rare to have a video game come along that makes me go, oh man, okay, I'm gonna finish this chapter and I'm gonna go be creative. And a lot of horror games will do that for me because I love horror, but definitely Alan Wake. It's that romanticized like writing, and it's kind of funny writers writing about writers
Yeah.
because it's definitely like it's a little bit self-absorbed, but
Right.
I don't know.
I I
I love those games.
dislike movies about making movies. So movies that kind of expose how the sausage is made.
Mm-hmm.
Something about it, I'm like, it's a sacred area of my enjoyment that I don't want to like expose. I don't want to
Yeah.
pull the curtain back on. I mean, I like it in terms of a comedy effect, and like Blazing Saddles or like Spaceballs. Mel Brooks is so good at
Oh
breaking
yeah.
the fourth wall, or
Breaking
like
the Yep.
showing actual like the the cameraman getting hit by Dark Helmet, his
Yeah.
lightsaber or whatever, stuff like that. But certain movies where it kind of takes place in the film industry, I don't particularly care for. So I was
Yeah.
surprised how much I liked Alan Wake, because it kind of does that. It like kind of peels back the writing process because you hear this like
Mm-hmm.
the dialogue of Alan talking about writing, and there's other authors that are being referenced in there too. So, but like I said, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm
Well,
probably about 3/4 of the way through.
I'm really, really glad that you played Max Payne. Let's just say they don't ignore that part of their history in Alan Wake 2.
Wait a
If you
minute. Are you
played,
saying it's by the same developer?
it is.
Oh, I
It's
did not
and
know that. Okay.
so
Remedy,
yeah,
right?
when Remedy, yeah, when you were saying that it reminded you of Max Payne, I was like, well, there you go. So same creators, same writers. Um,
Interesting.
and it's actually, and not to get into the weeds about this, but it's sort of funny because Max Payne, they sold the rights to Rockstar, so
Mm-hmm.
they actually can't even like reference Max Payne,
Mm-hmm.
but they can't like say the name, but it's funny because it's very clever how they work it sort of into Alan Wake 2. It's so great.
Wow.
It feels like a love letter to every game they've done so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny. You talk about the fourth wall breaking, and I love that moment in Max Payne. Like you mentioned him like getting drugged, and I love how it shows that the three panels over and over again, where he's in a loop. And the first time he like picks up the phone and they tell him you're in a comic book, and he's like, what? And then they're like you're in a video game, and like
Mm-hmm.
it's this weird moment where you're like, hold on, are we gonna really do this where he finds out he's a video game character, and then but
Yeah.
luckily they're like, no, it's all real, just
Mm-hmm.
kidding.
Well, I do want to say that they are still using the Energizer brand on the batteries in the game. We had talked
That's
about, I don't know if it was an
interesting.
earlier episode of NPG or if it was a different podcast that we've done together, but we, uh, you had talked about finding the Energizer brand
Yeah, in the
battery.
old game.
Mm-hmm.
I Okay, this is fascinating to me because I was playing the remake on Xbox and I did not see the Energizer brand. So I
Hmm.
don't like, is it in the PC version and not that, like, that's so funny to me.
Yeah. So far on the PC version, I don't know if it's remastered or not. I mean, it looks great, but
Yeah.
it's all Energizer. So,
Wow.
mhm.
Nice. Okay. That's funny.
So I've been playing Alan Wake, and you've been playing a lot of Call of Duty 6,000. What what number are we up
Yeah.
to now?
Yeah. Well, Black Ops 6,
Hmm.
which um, I was shocked to find out that there was that many Black Ops because Call of Duty, yeah, there's so many Call of Duties, and then they have these branches. They have Modern Warfare, and the remake of Modern Warfare, and World at War was an older one. So, yep, this is Black Ops 6. It's so funny, and you know this. I like will play multiplayer games with my friends for a while. It's like for a long time it was Sea of Thieves, and then a lot of Warzone when that first came out, when that first launched.
Hmm.
And then I will just I'm done. I'm get tired of it. I'm done. I
Hmm.
go into my cave and I play single player games, Bethesda games, and I just live in those worlds for like 2 years. And that's how I've been the last couple of years. And it's so funny. I'm like, the new Call of Duty is on Game Pass. So
Hmm.
that barrier of entry, like I can tell you right now, I was not gonna drop $70 on a
Sure.
game like this out of because I was enjoying my single player stuff.
Yeah.
But knowing that I just have to download it, I was like, all right, well, let me give it a shot. And oh man, I'm all in on it. I'm like looking up the meta, like which weapons are the best weapons to use right now.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty good. Like I'm never going to a tournament.
Yeah. I mean, the people that play that game for 16 hours a day, you can't compete with the
Yeah.
college kid who literally can play that for days on end and is so
Yeah.
good at it. but
Yep.
you can still have fun with it despite that.
We see these memes sometimes. So like you can take someone prisoner, like you can grab them as a human shield. So it's
Hmm.
like the ultimate insult to injury.
Yeah.
Not just getting executed, but they grab you for a while. But you can call for help. And what's funny is if you're in game chat, you can only hear your other teammates, but there
Hmm.
is like a proximity chat type thing. Here's what's hilarious. When you grab someone, it unlocks the microphones of both players.
Oh, no way.
So so you can hear the response from someone getting grabbed.
Hmm.
Um, I will say, so we laugh about like our own age, like me and my friends that are playing the game. We saw this meme where like some super good young player runs up and grabs, takes someone hostage,
Hmm.
and then they're like crying. It was like a crying emoji because the guy that they take hostage is just some 40-year-old guy after a long day of work trying
Hmm.
to have a good time, and he goes, "Ah, you got me." Um, and so it's kind of funny, like
It's a prepubescent kid who's got you.
yeah,
I got
yeah,
you. You suck. That's a brilliant move, putting the proximity mic for whoever grabs you.
yeah.
The crap talking is endless with that opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, proximity chat is always so fun in certain games because, a lot of people use Discord. When they're playing online, they use Discord or they use Xbox Party Chat. And they're just playing with their friends. And I get it. Like sometimes you don't want to hear the other players because they're idiots or whatever.
Hmm.
But when a game comes along that gives you a reason to jump into that game chat, like that's when it's really cool. Sea of Thieves did that for me. I remember playing on my own and I played it like a stealth game. Like I played with friends, but then I loved the game so much I would play by myself, which is very dangerous to do.
Hmm.
And I just remember this one time, talk about a gaming memory that stays with you forever. I was on an island, it was chill, I'm just digging up treasure, and then all of a sudden I start to hear voices in the voice chat, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh my God, there's someone else on this island. Like, it was terrifying. I love moments like that.
Do they have proximity chat in some of these horror games where it's like Freddy versus, or not Freddy, but like Michael Myers versus everyone else? What are those games called again?
Oh yeah, I mean they have games like Dead by Daylight. Definitely, I think it was Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
which I think that got delisted. But yeah, that's the type of game you're talking about where, yeah, one player's a villain. That's a good question. I would hope they have proximity chat like that. It
Hmm.
would really make sense for those types of games.
Yeah. Bring back the days of Ventrilo, right? Does anyone use Ventrilo anymore? I mean, I don't even.
That was the voice chat for PC, right? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, that was it. I mean, Discord has sort of taken over that space, I feel like.
Yeah. Now, I haven't played Call of Duty since Call of Duty, I think it was Modern Warfare 2. It's been a while. But
Yeah.
so the multiplayer that you're playing is not Warzone currently. Is that
No,
correct?
in fact, yeah. So right now it's just multiplayer, so it's just the maps, very
Hmm.
fast paced. And I'm actually excited because I love Warzone, and Warzone is like you can play it right now, but it's the old Warzone. And the new one is actually launching November 14th. So we're almost to a brand new Warzone.
Hmm.
It's so like chill until it's not. And then it's like terrifying and then survival.
Hmm.
But I love exploring. And so the concept of like Warzone dropping in, yes, you're always on the lookout for enemies, but you're kind of exploring and looking for supplies. So much fun. So much fun. I have not heard anything about them doing a new extraction based game for the or mode for this new game.
Hmm.
Uh, I feel like I read that it didn't do well on the last one, which is really a shame because I feel like it just needed some tweaks, and it would have been my favorite thing ever.
Hmm,
So we'll see.
interesting. It does remind me a little bit of DayZ, which I played a little bit of, but DayZ was
Yeah.
more terrifying because you didn't have teammates. It was just like you against anyone and everyone, and
Yeah.
zombies, but also real people wandering around who had been camping out with tons of sniping equipment.
So I've really wanted to get into DayZ. I've wanted to get into Rust.
Hmm.
Both of these games are similar in that way where it's a survival game. I I can't get into any game where my house, my stuff is living on a server even when I'm not playing.
Hmm.
Like the idea that when I'm not online, someone can come destroy or steal my stuff. Like, come on. Like, I can't be playing like that. I can't be doing that.
Yeah, it's just hard because if you invest a lot of time into it and then somebody destroys it all, I mean, it's kind of interesting, but it's also frustrating, and I guess that's part of the
Yeah.
point of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I remember some old stories like friends that played Ark
Hmm.
that was a similar situation, but if you had a big enough group, maybe there was always someone online. But my
Yeah.
friend told me, he was like, I would get a Discord message that's like, they're in our base. And I'd have to like stop what I was doing and run and get online. I'm like, yeah, no, I can't. I
That's
can't
not
do
happening.
that.
No.
Well, Duane, let me ask you this. I already know the answer, but are you gonna get a PlayStation 5 Pro?
I don't know. And here's why I don't know. Because my wife
Interesting.
has a tendency to buy big Christmas presents, and she surprised me in years
Oh,
past of buying gaming consoles because she is kind of
okay.
like the typical mom to our two kids where you could get home from school, you would do all your homework, and then you would get on the console, start playing video games, and then mom would come in and be like, "Okay, turn that off." It was
Yeah,
like,
that was that was my life. Yeah.
yeah. So you never really got a chance to play this big, beautiful console that you got for Christmas because there's this mindset of, oh, you're wasting your time. So it's an
Yeah.
interesting juxtaposition of her buying the consoles and yet us not feeling like we can always just sit down and play. But I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised if she picked up randomly like a PlayStation 5 for Christmas because she goes big on
Yeah.
Christmas, and she knows that all three of us, in terms of the husband, the two kids, we all love video games. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But I do like the way it looks. PlayStation is
Okay.
and
Yeah.
Sony's very good at aesthetics, and I think Xbox has gotten better over the years. The Xbox stuff looks really good as well now, but the PlayStation I
Yeah.
think looks better. And what I've seen from the PlayStation 5, it's pretty cool looking. Kind of, I wanted to joke around and say it's so ugly it could be a modern art masterpiece, that classic
Right.
line.
Yeah.
But
It does have that look. Yeah.
it's a little bit of modern art, it's a little bit of tech looking, but I think it's cool.
I will say that I didn't love it at first, and it's just it's massive. Like I have a PlayStation 5.
Hmm.
Uh, it's not a Pro, but even that is a huge system.
Is it? I don't
Um,
know. I can't. I
yeah,
haven't seen one in real life, so I'm not sure what the size is. But
yeah.
if you're saying it's
It's
huge,
it's it's big. We definitely had to, yeah, we had to move things around to make sure we had a spot for it.
hmm,
But you know what's funny though? The design, I didn't love the design at first. And I think I was so into how the Series X, they did their design, which is just this solid black box. It's just like,
hmm,
it's like almost like a perfect shape. And then, but I love how PlayStation, they just went the whole different route. Like, I mean, it even looks sort of like a router from, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, you're right. Very modern art kind of way, and it definitely has grown on me.
So they show a picture of the PlayStation 5 Pro, which has the additional, you know, module or whatever it is on the side of it, and they show it resting on the side with two little feet. I don't know if those
Yeah, that's
feet pop out or what's the deal, but it looks like a architectural wonder, like a one of these houses
right.
on the edge of the Hollywood
Yeah,
Hills. You know,
it does.
if you pull this just the image out from the background and you put it on a mountain, you would actually think that this was a house.
Yeah, it really does. It looks like, yeah, where the little feet that you mentioned, it looks
Hmm.
like that's where like you would park your cars
Right.
underneath like the canopy. So funny.
This looks like what's his name's house, who the creator of Minecraft. He has one of these like $10 million
Oh yeah,
houses in the
Notch.
Hollywood Hills. Notch, yeah. It's like
Yeah,
it looks like
Notch.
this.
I remember he either bought his house. It was like he bought his house from Jay-Z, or I think like Jay-Z was bidding on the same house and he outbid
Hmm.
Jay-Z. Oh man, so
And he has
funny.
this collection of scooters in the parking garage below.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. Mid-gen is exciting. Um, I to me, it's like I already have a PlayStation 5.
Hmm.
I could not, even if I wanted to spend the money,
Yeah, it's
it's
hard to
it's
justify
not
that
worth the
jump.
jump.
Hmm.
Yeah. They're remastering all these games, and that's good. Like I really like that. I like when these game systems keep updating older games because I
Hmm.
will. I have my favorite games and I'll keep playing them. But yeah, for a game to be like, oh, the reflections are slightly better. I'm like, well, don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. I love
we're
me a good reflection, but yeah,
and we're talking $700 plus tax, right?
yeah,
So you're talking almost $800 to buy the Pro. Of course, if like you said, if you want the best graphics on a PlayStation and you're not willing to wait another year for PlayStation 6 or 2 years potentially,
yeah. Which it'll be more. I think
you think?
if they're doing this now,
Hmm.
if they're doing mid-gen, I really think a new PlayStation is 3 years away.
Hmm.
Um, Now, Xbox did not do a mid-gen refresh. Well, there's sort of. It's just a bigger hard drive. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's no difference in
There's
how
no
games
upgraded
play.
graphics card, which is what the main
No.
purchase point of this would be, the new GPU, right?
Yeah. So that's like if you're not a PC player and you're a console player and you want the best thing right now, yes,
Hmm.
PlayStation 5 Pro, especially if you didn't already have a PS5, awesome. Yeah, like this is a great time to jump in.
Hmm.
But the rumor is that Xbox skipped doing a mid-gen refresh because the new Xbox, it sounds like they're trying to hit next gen earlier than PlayStation. That was their strategy on the Xbox 360. It paid off really well for them that generation.
Hmm.
360 crushed PlayStation 3. Uh, and they haven't been able to get it back since then.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I like all systems, but I'm really looking forward to, if the rumors are true, then as early as 2026, we might be looking at like true next gen.
Hmm. What's your take on the controller? Do you prefer the
The
Xbox controller over the Sony? I mean, obviously they're similar, but
They're similar, but PlayStation has the motion controls so that you can do it like, especially with like shooting games and stuff like that. Like you can sort of like fine tune how you aim. So it's
mm,
it's almost like sort of like having a mouse, I guess, in a way. But it's like gyroscopic. And then in addition to that, they have the little touchpad, which is very cool. So I'm saying this as a big Xbox fan. The PlayStation controller is great.
and it's not
Um,
just the tech on paper; it's the feel
the
of the
feel is
controller.
good.
Mm,
Yeah, the feel is really good. You know what? I still like how Xbox has the D-pad between the joysticks, though. I
mm,
will always love this because the D-pad on a lot of games is to select weapons,
right. And it
and
feels
I
more
can,
natural to thumb over.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing is you can see on a PlayStation, you have your sticks, and then the D-pad. You can only use your left thumb for the D-pad, whereas with the Xbox, the D-pad being between the sticks, sort of, there's times where I can be running forward as a game character and reach over with my right thumb to hit the D-pad to switch weapons. It makes a
Mm.
big difference for me. So I like that depending on the game. Yeah, the PlayStation controller is very impressive.
What's your
Um,
go-to game on the PlayStation if you're just gonna turn it on and play for fun?
Definitely the game that I've played the most is definitely Spider-Man, and
Mm,
it's like the Spider-Man games are so fun. So the one I've played the most is the Miles Morales
hmm
video game, Spider-Man Miles Morales. I haven't played the Spider-Man 2, and I didn't even play Spider-Man 1 because at the time that I got the PlayStation 5, the Miles Morales was the most like technologically advanced at the time.
hmm
So usually I'm that person that I'm like, I can't play the second one until I've played the first one. But I was like so ready to just see what the PlayStation 5 could do. I just
hmm
jumped right into that one. You know, it's funny because the other game that I played quite a bit that I need to go back and finish is Death Stranding.
Yeah.
And the reason that's funny is because surprise this morning, it Death Stranding came out on Xbox,
Yeah.
the
And
director's
it's
cut. This
November
wasn't
7th,
announced.
2024, right? Yeah.
Yeah, today, yeah, November 7th. It was shocking. And I just thought, okay, like I feel bad because I have a PlayStation 5 and I don't play it that much. And I keep telling myself, all right, you need to take a break from Xbox. Get back to your PlayStation. Play some of those games. And then when they announced Death Stranding, I was like, they're like, it's only $20. I was like, man, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I
hmm
can buy it on Xbox. It's like, no, get back on the PlayStation 5. I got to
Do
do it.
they have a Game Pass system on PlayStation? What is that called?
They do. They have like it's like PlayStation Plus, and they have like these different levels of it. And here's what's kind of funny is I don't know if they had improved it by the time that I got there, but I had always heard, oh, PlayStation has their own version of Game Pass, but it's not as good. I don't know, man. I got to tell you, there was a time, I'm not paying for both subscriptions right now,
hmm
but there was a time where I had Game Pass on Xbox and I had PlayStation Plus Premium on PlayStation. I thought they were both amazing. Like, so I don't, maybe they've improved it since people complained, but I thought the PlayStation answer to Xbox, I think it's very good. They have all these like older PlayStation games that you can go back and play.
Right.
Uh,
So it's not
honestly,
a
like,
kind of
yeah,
half-baked system or service.
I
It's
don't
actually
think
really
so.
good. Okay.
So here's the big difference though. Xbox games, if you have Game Pass, every single Xbox published game comes to Game Pass on day one.
Mm.
I love that.
hmm
That's not the case on PlayStation. They want to sell the newer games to people, which I understand, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they like come to Game Pass later. Or they come to PlayStation Premium later.
hmm
So that's the biggest difference. So I would prefer Game Pass because you get all the Xbox published stuff day one. But I gotta tell you, like, if you if you're buying no games and you just have a subscription to Game Pass and a subscription to PlayStation Plus, you have all the games that you
Right.
need. Like, it's
You have
crazy.
more games than time at that point, by
Oh
far.
yeah. It's like I will never, yeah, I'll never play all these games. And so eventually, yeah, I was like, okay, I don't need all these subscriptions. But yeah, I mean, they both have great services.
And meanwhile, Nintendo is kind of the little brother that's like, hey guys, let me play.
Yeah.
Kind of. I mean, they're
Well,
they're dominating in the handheld or like the Switch,
yeah.
marketplace. So they
They
own that
they
space.
they really own that space. I have to say, for all the talk that you and I just don't play a lot of Nintendo. Uh Recently I'm not super into Pokemon. I'm always like curious though, what's going
Hmm.
on. Like it's always interesting to me. So they had a new Pokemon game, and it came out on mobile. It's just a trading card game. So that just came out, and I downloaded it. I'm checking it out, and while that's not technically Nintendo, well, you can link your Nintendo account, so I guess it is. But my point is, all those sound effects, the menu button sound effects, the music, that stuff that Nintendo is known for, my God, it makes me happy. Like I just
Sure.
start playing it and I just feel this happiness.
Hmm.
And I can't tell you if it's nostalgia or if it's like carefully engineered sound effects to trigger these feelings.
Yeah, it's a little bit of
But
both, I'm sure. And they're carrying that
yeah,
tradition forward with each generation because, you know, maybe my kids or the generation before them liked Wii sound effects, right? And now
yes,
when they pick up
yes.
the Switch, they're gonna hear some of that, or whatever the next handheld is after the Switch. They're gonna recognize sound effects
Yeah.
from games they played on that. But
I gotta tell you, I get it. Like the people that are like, I know we have friends of ours that I see them, they're hardcore Nintendo fans.
mhm.
It's like I got whatever the Nintendo system is, that's their jam.
Do they have the
And
Alarmo?
they better. I hope they pre-ordered. Um, I have to tell you, like, I get it because there are times now where if I feel stressed, I'm like, man, I feel like I could feel a lot better just turning on a Nintendo system.
Hmm.
I don't have the Nintendo Wii anymore, but to your point, those menu sound effects, man, I feel like if I owned one and I plugged it in right now, I would feel instantly better.
Right. Speaking of Nintendo, Nintendo legend Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of beloved video game franchises such as Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, and Donkey Kong, has denied being a
Yeah.
genius. Michael, can you believe it? I don't agree with him. I mean, but I think that's
Yeah.
good because when you meet a genius, typically they don't want to be called or known as a genius, but their
Yeah.
reputation precedes them and their persona. So, I mean, if you met Beethoven, would they think they were a genius? Maybe, but
Right.
a lot of
Maybe.
times when you
So
meet these
yeah.
people, they don't. So
A lot of
I
times they don't, and that's because they are geniuses and they're creating things. They're not concerned with their image.
mhm. Yeah, they put all their time and effort into what they're creating, whether it's a painting, a video game, music, whatever it is. And what's also interesting is that he's 71 now, which,
Wow.
you know, seems like that's pretty old. Not to be
Well,
rude, but
it is. No, it is, but isn't it also weird because he has such a long and storied career
mhm,
that it's almost mind-blowing. It reminds you that the early pioneers of games, a lot of them were very young when they started
mhm,
because it was just a new world. It was not an old man's game when it first
not
came
at
out
all.
because it was
But
like,
it is
what the
now.
heck is
Like
this? Yeah.
he's
Yep.
creating at 71. I mean, that's awesome to have such
Yeah.
an incredible career span like that. But he
It
he
is
was
funny though. Oh, go ahead.
He was quoted as saying, "I think I'm a pretty ordinary person, and if possible, I'd prefer not to work at all. But if I'm going to work, I want to do so as efficiently as possible. I'm always thinking about how to make what I'm working on a hit, because if I make a hit, this makes my next job easier." That's very Japanese in culture, I feel like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
yeah, there's this like kind of sense of corporate loyalty in that
Yep.
statement, I feel like, and also a humbleness that is not deserved. He shouldn't be this humble, I guess
Yeah.
is what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, and contrast that with a lot of people that are in similar positions in the United States.
Hmm.
Not to start a culture war, but you see a lot of people that really want that status that don't
Hmm.
deserve it, and and wow, it's just this it's Miyamoto says, okay, he's not a genius. I find that statement interesting because if you examine any one of his games, like you go, okay, what is genius about this? It's a gorilla and he's running, he's collecting bananas. That sounds very simple.
Hmm.
And that's what makes him a genius, is that none of those ideas on paper sound like anything amazing.
Hmm.
But what he does, he just creates these games that like they become huge hits. Like that's what's fascinating to me. Oh, a plumber. It's a plumber and he kicks turtles. Like
Hmm.
what?
Yeah,
But it's friggin' Mario.
it's everything together. It's kind of that singular vision of bringing in a simple concept, like you said, but adding whether it be the right graphics, the right characters, names, sound effects, everything. It all
Yep.
kind of adds
Yep.
up. And I think that is the
Yep.
genius, bringing it all together. We would consider him, like an auteur in film terminology.
Right.
And I wonder, do you have anyone that you can think of that's an American that you would consider a video game legend of the same caliber?
Definitely. I mean, it's the one that comes to mind is Todd Howard, which it's funny because
Hmm.
we talk about him a lot on our other podcast. Um,
You also have like Gabe
if
Newell. Is he American or is
Yeah,
he? And then you have
he's yeah.
like John Romero with the Doom series and Quake and all that.
You can tell when a creator has like that stamp of you can tell it's their product.
Hmm.
Um, don't get me wrong. Like for instance, Todd Howard, he's got a huge team of people. There's a huge team of people making these things. But when you play a Bethesda game, you see Todd Howard's influences and his
Hmm.
preferences. They're very unique. It's not like any other series of games. Same with Gabe Newell. You play those older, they haven't made a new game in a long time, but like you play those Half-Life games, um, you can tell there's certain things, right? This is important to this creator. It's got to have this. It's got to have with Half-Life, it's got to have this new paradigm for gaming. They brought in physics like when physics was not a thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, you know, there's definitely like Hideo Kojima. Okay, he's not American, that's another Japanese developer, but when you play a Hideo Kojima game, if you can tell this has his aura around it.
Hmm.
Um, I like a lot of I like a lot of Ubisoft games, but lately it doesn't have that auteur feel that you're talking about. It
Hmm.
has a committee feel,
Right.
and I don't love that. I really love when you can tell like, oh, this was made by that director, the John Romero. Like it was made by that guy, that woman, and their team.
Right. We worked when when I worked at Electronic Arts, I remember going to a meeting, which wasn't something that the testers did a whole lot at the time. I was just a quality assurance tester, but I got to go upstairs, where all the developers were, and sit in on a couple meetings. And I just remember getting that feeling of like, this is not going to be a good game, just based on how the interactions of the meeting were going, what I knew
Right.
about the title from already quality assurance, testing it. It lacked that
Yeah.
singular vision,
Yeah.
and that I do think that is so important. It's kind of like any art project. You don't really make music with a committee.
Yeah.
It's usually like Jay-Z to bring back Jay-Z, but
Mm-hmm.
there's one person behind it who's captaining that vessel.
It's important because there are things that come across as a director. Sometimes, like I don't work in games, but you and I work in film. As a director, sometimes there are things you want a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't always know exactly why. You can't always explain why it has to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a deep-seated, like it's internal, and you just know it needs to be that way. Um,
That's kind of the essence of
and
directing,
yeah,
is explaining your vision to the people that you're working with, the cameraman, the actor, the set
yeah,
dresser, everything, and selling them on that idea, because you're going to get pushback. That's why directing is hard, because everybody who's involved wants to bring something to the project, which is a good thing. But you're
yeah,
right. If you have that instinct or gut feeling or a vision, and you need to convey that to your team so that you can bring that to the screen, and I feel like that's
yeah.
what these great game designers do, is they do it in the same way with video games.
If you have a bunch of suits coming in, the money men, if you have them coming in and they're directing a game in this way, they're like, well, how will the game be the most successful? What can we do? Like, what
Mm.
colors can we use in these costumes that will make kids want to buy these skins more? Like,
Right. It's like
get out of
battle
here.
royales are popular right now, so let's clone it.
Yep.
So we'll bring in the
Mm-hmm.
team that can clone this game, and then it usually ends up being terrible, right?
Right. And that's sort of like that's another thing that you and I were talking about before we got onto recording, is that the creator of this game called Tales of Kenzera, Zhao, the creator of this game says it's time for AAA studios to move away from quote unquote safe bets.
Hmm.
Like, and that's the thing, is like, you have all these, the money men saying, yeah, like you said, oh, battle royales are popular. Everything is moving so quickly. Like games take a long time to develop. So if you're trying to develop based on what's popular now,
Hmm.
you're going to be left in the dust in 5 years when your game comes out, because
So
something
true.
new is going to be popular.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's just
safe.
a safe bet is not a safe bet anymore.
That's why Notch lives in a PlayStation 5 Pro house in the Hollywood Hills, because
Yeah.
he had a vision. It wasn't about the best graphics, right? It was
Yeah.
about a feeling and a gameplay in a procedurally generated world that
Yeah.
revolutionized games. In the when did that come out? 2005 or something like that, or 2010?
Man, yeah, I feel like around that time,
Yeah.
he brought in entire new genres.
Hmm.
There are so many survival games now. which I love. It's one of my favorite genres, and
Not only survival,
Minecraft
but like
started that.
low res as a
Yep.
game genre. You look at Roblox and how the popularity of Roblox
Yeah,
with kids
Roblox is
has
huge.
been amazing.
It's been huge, and like, yeah, when I first saw Roblox, I was like, well, I'll say every single time I see Roblox, I'm
Yeah.
like, what is this? I still
L-
just no, never,
Luckily, my kids
never
have
for
stopped
me.
playing Roblox, but there was a time there where I would walk into the room and it was like weightlifting, you know,
Yeah, weightlifting. It's like,
or
okay,
the shark game, which is a fun concept. Like, one person is the shark and the other people are all on boats and you gotta get away. But like the graphics were so bad. It just had this like, it was like
no,
ITT. It
yeah,
was like one Art
yeah,
Design Institute or one of these like
yeah.
for-profit places where it just looked like, I don't know, a commercial for one of these schools where it was like really homemade graphics. Always made me
It's
laugh.
interesting that that time has passed for you, because I have a son that recently spent some like $25 of allowance money on a Roblox marketplace card. And I was like, okay, like, you have that talk, like, it's
Hmm.
like, this is your money. I'm not telling you not to get this.
Right.
I'm just saying that the money will be gone.
Well,
After.
I don't know where my daughter got this, but it was like a glossy fold out from a magazine that had the top Roblox games on it. It was like top 25 Roblox games, and it showed the popularity number, and it's staggering. It's like 25 million, people play this game or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
I didn't recognize a
yeah.
single one of like the top 25, and it's all like, random names. But
Although half of those players are just YouTubers trying to trying to make content for
yeah,
kids.
something. So, Michael, no one has commented on our last Normal People Gaming podcast episode about the
Yeah.
Nintendo Alarmo. So, I have not a suggestion, but like a request, I guess, for any of our listeners, which is if you enjoy our podcast, let someone else know somehow. I don't know how or why or what
Yeah.
for, but pass the word along. We would like to get some more people listening to this podcast. We do, of course, have our sister podcast, Starfield with Normal People, which I think for a niche game is hugely successful. Very happy with that
Yeah.
podcast.
Very happy.
Hmm.
Very happy with the community that's
Oh
come
yeah,
together
it's awesome.
over that podcast. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I agree. Like, we are finding in our Discord, obviously, that even though we're a lot of Starfield fans, we are fans of all games. And we love doing this podcast, talking about all gaming, like gaming history, gaming news. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, please pass it along.
Hmm. Well, what's great about our podcast, Michael, is that if you are a Patreon, you get two for the price of one. We do both the Starfield with Normal People and the Normal People Gaming podcast. Yeah, which includes ad-free content. And Michael, you have made little like high-res desktop backgrounds, and
Yeah,
there's
yep.
stickers and all kinds of stuff there. So,
That's right. Yeah, we have the normal people. We've got some T-shirts and stickers depending on your level that you come in at. But yeah, you're always getting all of our content ad free and early. So we really appreciate the people that support the show. I do want to give a special thanks, first off, to a brand new member, Josh. So Josh joined, and yeah, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate that. And as always, we really want to thank our legendary members. So thank you to Chim Chim, The Great Serpent, Bergenstock, Space Cadet 829, Kittalahara, Rampage American X, Cherry Bomb RN, Griffin, and Ziegler Rocks.
and thank you to everyone that listens on streaming and to those watching on YouTube. Hey, leave us a comment. Let us know, if you think Shigeru Miyamoto is wrong when he says he's not a genius. Tell us. And all links are provided in the show notes below.
And in addition to the comments, you can come chat with us directly in the Discord. We'll have that link available as well. And if you like the show, consider dropping a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. That would really help us out.
Thanks for hanging with Normal People Gaming, and make sure you subscribe because we will be back for more.
We'll see you then.